Fun.
Welcome to the reality show. It is the ARCUK Awards, and yeah, we are doing some non-war content because the awards is an annual tradition, and we are all about tradition here at ARCUK. I'm joined by Kirk Wilcox, and I'm joined by the returning Nikos. Nikos, welcome back.
So let's tell people that the award started 2 years ago, and I had the idea because we all like this type of stuff. It's the end of the year. We try to think what was the best moments in a personal life, in sports. So why don't we do it also for ARC UK? So it's a festive episode in a year that was otherwise was a bit, not great. Actually, I was thinking about it. Could it be that we're a bit like Batman, right? When things are bad, people come to us for our opinions. So if you see, usually we do well when horrible things happen. We started the channel during the lockdown. ARI became particularly prevalent around 9/11. We became more popular with our Israeli commentary this year. So yeah, not a great year, but a year in which we had more penetration, let's say, in the society and in the public sphere. So that's where we are.
Yeah. And we'll talk about all those sad things that happened this year on Friday's show, which is the year in review. We will today, this is my first awards show, I have to say. So yeah. And I don't know if you heard that, but there was some loud explosion here. But yeah, so Nikos, in many ways, I will need you to take the lead, at least when we present the categories. I do have a nominee for each category.
Okay, so let's start with the first category. So we skip the objectivist of the year, right? So we go straight to best objectivist on Twitter.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So the first category actually has nothing to do with ARC UK, but it has to do with the type of stuff we do. So who was the public intellectual of the year? So who was the person whose voice actually inspired us? Who was the person who made us feel braver to speak up? And who is the person who was our intellectual?
Wait, yeah. Aren't these two separate categories? So
why?
Public intellect, yeah, we should have spoken about this ahead more. But I assume public intellectual of the year was non-objectivist, and then we had objectivist of the year, objectivist on Twitter.
Yeah, these are different things. All so right. It could be, but my vote this year is not an objectivist for public intellectual of the year.
Mine as well, because I assumed it can't be an objectivist.
Okay. So let's start with Razen. Who is your public intellectual of the year?
I don't think this will be much of a shock, but Douglas Murray, and Douglas Murray specifically for his defense of Israel, which has been amazing. Of course, I don't agree with everything he says, but the fact that he has made this his issue, I can relate to that. And the fact that he went to Israel, I can't relate with that, but the fact that he went to Israel, he is really putting everybody in their place on this, even when he's talking to supposedly pro-Israel people. He is really impressive on this. So that is my nominee. Nikos, I don't know if you were smiling because you had the same idea.
Yeah, public intellectual of the year, of course, is Douglas Murray, particularly for his commentary the first days after the attack. So the context was, it was the time where the public opinion started shifting, as it was actually, Raz, you were one of the people who predicted it would happen. So now the issue was supposedly that Israel's reply was disproportionate, although the reply was not even out there yet. And Douglas Murray spoke very eloquently, he always does, but also very, very bravely. And some people will say, hey, this is part of his weird agenda about the strange death of Europe. He wants to get rid of people in the UK that he doesn't want them there. But the reality is that his commentary stood out, and it was also a commentary that was inspiring in terms of, hey, someone stands up and says things as they should be said. So this is not a criticism about who he was before the issue or whether we agree on everything, but on this particular topic, it was quite inspiring to seeing him. I have a runner-up, but before we get to runner-up, let's hear Kirk's who is Public Intellectual of the Year for 2023.
Well, I might have to nominate myself for Golden Raspberry because I already done goofed on this because I thought it had to be an objectivist. So I guess I'm just going to have to go with one of my favorite public intellectuals who I've taken greater interest in the last 2 years generally, but especially this year because of a lot of the foreign policy stuff going on. And that would be the historian Stephen Kotkin. Every time he's in an interview somewhere, I am very interested to hear what he has to say. He's written a couple of really in-depth books on Stalin, but especially ever since Russia invaded Ukraine, he's been a frequent guest, I think, on the Hoover Institute's various podcasts. So I'd go Stephen Kotkin.
Just a few hours ago, I was reading a biography of Lenin, and it was so not to the standard of Stephen Kotkin's biography of Stalin. I was telling my partner, hey, we should do something with transhumanism. Kotkin should live another 150 years because he needs to write the biography of every protagonist of the Russian Revolution. We need a Kotkin biography of Lenin, and we need a Kotkin biography of Trotsky. Actually, I don't know if he has written anything on Trotsky, but I wish he had written something on Lenin. So Stephen Kotkin, yes, you can find him on Hoover Institute. Unfortunately, he doesn't do much of Middle East commentary, but he's a guy, whenever he talks, I listen, and I think that's what the audience should do. He doesn't talk often, which means that whenever he says something, he has thought about it, and it's not something which is just, some half-baked stuff. So Stephen Kotkin, he's actually, now I think about it, he should be my runner-up. My runner-up would actually be also Sam Harris. He's been off Twitter, but he had this take on who is the moral side on the Israel-Palestinian conflict. How should you choose? And if we take aside, if we take away people in the objectivist movement, this was the best moral take in the conflict. It was trending on Twitter after October 7. So in a time of tribalism, in a time where people talk a lot, Sam Harris's calm voice is, for me, something which is very much appreciated. I see this and I say, I wish I could have this clarity and this calmness of mind when it comes to issues. Of course, we disagree on many issues. That's not the point again. Razi.
Yeah, let me just tell people in the audience, you don't have to spell anybody's name. There will be a link. There is already a link in the live chat. If you're watching this later, you missed out, but still watch the rest of the show to see who won. There is a link in the live chat. You can go there, you can click it, you can vote for any of the people nominated here.
Right. And it's not that they have weird surnames. We haven't nominated myself yet, so we're still with the easy names. Okay, Kirk or Razi, any runners-up?
Going back to the whole Russia conflict, I would also say Timothy Snyder. I've taken greater interest in him, although politically, I think he kind of leans left a little bit too much for my taste. But when he writes about history, it's good stuff. And also Mark Andreessen, bringing a more positive perspective to the issue of artificial intelligence. Okay, that's cool. Razi, any runners-up?
No, I just had Douglas Murray. I think because this is the most important issue by far, and he is the best on it by far of prominent intellectuals, that would be my only vote.
Okay. Speaking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Jordan Peterson was quite good in some of the interviews I saw. Unfortunately, he hasn't been that good on issues and on topics that I'm familiar with. So I'm going to nominate him as the intellectual disappointment of the year for me for his take on Ayn Rand. So it's a year where he's been rereading The Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, and his commentary is a bit disappointing, particularly for someone who respects him, who at least used to look up to him, and he has become better based on some of Jordan Peterson's best things. So for me, this was not a great year in terms of how I appreciate Jordan Peterson. Of course, when I talk about intellectual disappointment, it means people from whom I expected something better. So I'm not going to nominate the Hamas useful idiots. I'm not going to nominate, I don't know, the Libertarian Party of the US, and I'm not going to nominate National Conservatives. I'm speaking about people from whom I expected a bit more. So the intellectual, let's say, the golden raspberry of the year, I would give it to the Ayn Rand commentary of Jordan Peterson. Speaking of Jordans, I'm a Liverpool fan. Another big intellectual disappointment of the year, although he's not intellectual, is not only the many people who went to Saudi Arabia, but particularly Jordan Henderson, again, the captain of Liverpool, the guy who was wearing the armband with the rainbow colors, going to Saudi Arabia and saying, well, you know, we should be tolerant of different views. So there's no contradiction in me being a symbol of hope and then going to have the royal family of Saudi Arabia as my employers. No contradiction there. So two Jordans are the disappointments of the year for me. Again, two people I otherwise would look up to, but on these issues disappointing me.
I will, just before we go to that, Roland Horvath says, totally second Mark Andreessen. Also, Nicole in the regular chat says Caroline Glick. Yeah, Caroline Glick is great. She has always been great, but she's now gained some international prominence. And of course, yeah, there are other intellectuals. I know I was clear about one. I think Barry Weiss has also been very good, especially in recent months. So
Barry Weiss. So here's a category we should have had: best talk of the year, best lecture of the year, best video of the year. No question, it's Barry Weiss lecture. I think in the Federalist. I'm not sure.
yeah.
It's perhaps one of the most impactful talks I've listened in my life. I almost became emotional. Brilliant talk. I think it's called The Last Line of Defense. So
Yeah.
hats off to Barry Weiss.
Just to understand how serious that praise is, Nikos is saying that is the best talk of the year, like above his own Ocon talk, which is that is impressive. But anyway,
which no one noticed when it happened at Ocon, right?
Yeah, people noticed it when it went viral on YouTube.
No, I mean including people who were at Ocon. It's like, yeah, okay, that's a good talk. Okay.
I noticed that. I was there.
It definitely, you weren't that impressed with my Ocon talk. It's not like you came after and you said, okay, Razi, who is your intellectual disappointment of the year?
So, again, the word intellectual there is a bit too big of a compliment. But yeah, it's also not a Hamas useful idiot as in the sense that he is fully expressing support for Hamas. It is Piers Morgan who does the both sides thing in the most despicable way. He has truly vile people on his show from the start, from right after October 7th, people saying why this was, resistance and it's okay and all that. And he's once Israel started responding, he said, yes, Israel has the right to self-defense, and everything that followed the but said that Israel didn't have the right to self-defense, that everything Israel did and could actually do was wrong. So I really despise Piers Morgan more and more every single day. Somebody asked me recently if we're going to do a show about him, and I said no. The very idea of it, like giving him a whole 30 minutes sounds like a waste of time, but he does have a massive audience and he uses it for evil.
Right. Okay. That's an interesting I didn't see that coming. So Kirk, who let you down this year intellectually?
I'm trying to think. I think Piers Morgan is a pretty good one. He seems to just allow a lot of goons, loons, and buffoons on his show to talk about especially the Israeli conflict and whatnot. And yeah, I think one of the things he's big about is like, yeah, Israel has a right to self-defense. And I think his whole perspective is like the issue of like proportionality. Are they reacting proportional in the correct way and all that stuff? And sometimes he's good at challenging his guests. Like when he had Jeremy Corbyn on, it was refreshing to see him hold Jeremy Corbyn's feet to the fire. But there have been other, I can't think of anything specifically where he's had one of the anti-Israeli commentators on his show, and I think he's been a little disappointing challenging them. So I think I will second Razi's endorsement
Okay.
Piers Morgan.
Okay.
I thought about throwing Ayaan Hirsi Ali in there. I know a lot of objectivists were disappointed with her coming around on Christianity, but that's not a topic I've looked into too much, so I don't really feel good about nominating her. So
Yeah, I agreed. I wasn't one of the people who were so disappointed. Again, I have so much respect for her bravery and stuff that I kind of brushed this off. Yes.
So just a couple of quick points. So Roland Horvath says in another super chat, if you're not into last names, feel free to just drop mine. My friends call me Roland. Yeah, I only sometimes I change the order of letters, but yeah, I'm not against last names, except Nico says, because as our mutual friend George says, Greek last names are proof of the Crow epistemology. So I try to avoid trying to pronounce them. And I should say, Anne says in the chat, if Piers was that bad, would Trump have made him an apprentice? I watched that season of The Apprentice, and yeah, that was the last time I enjoyed Piers Morgan. I mean, I kind of enjoyed him trolling, vegans and having a burger while interviewing them, but still, that also is kind of that's not how you truly make an intellectual argument. So, yeah.
Okay. Next category is best objectivist on Twitter. So we're not talking about who is the best objectivist. We're talking about who is the best objectivist on Twitter. And I will give the award.
Did you miss? Were you going to have another pick for the previous category?
No, you mean the runner-up?
Yeah, the producer is asking because he needs to send out the link so that people can vote.
Okay, Jordan Henderson. He was the captain of Liverpool who decided to go to Saudi Arabia. So here's actually a very short story. In basketball All-Star games, there's something called the three-point shot competition. So and at some point in Greece, there was such a great three-point shooter who won 3 consecutive years. So in the next All-Star game, people said, and actually he himself said, okay, I'm not going to compete because every year I win. It's a bit boring. So people remember my 2 previous years winner award for best Twitter objectivist is the gentleman on the screen, Kirk Wilcox. I will give him the awards this year as well. And here's why. Because he's one of the few objectivists who understands Twitter in terms of he understands the memes, he understands the slang, he understands the energy, right? So Twitter is not just about we say the right thing. Twitter is also we communicate in one particular way, and I think Kirk definitely gets it. So my award goes to Kirk. Honorable mention to Mark Pellegrino, particularly on his consistency. So that's something difficult on Twitter. Like Twitter is about momentum. You get good ideas. The more you tweet, the more good ideas you get. And I find this difficult. Quite often I write a tweet, then I might not tweet for 5 days, for 10 days, because I can't think of something. But people like Kirk and people like Mark, they seem to be all the time having the inspiration to write good and funny things. So I will vote them as the best objectivists on Twitter. And Razi, I know that you were particularly active, particularly after October 7th. Your Twitter style, my Twitter style are a bit different. So I'm very curious to hear what is your candidate, what is your winner?
I've recused myself from all categories. I can't be nominated, but I do like my own Twitter at Razi Ginsburg if you're not following me. And yeah, Nikos, I thought we would have a mini debate about whether my Twitter is good or bad. Thank you, Nicole, for nominating me, but unfortunately I can't be nominated. But yeah, Bonnie, I agree with Bonnie in the chat. I also think that Mark Pellegrino is the best objectivist on Twitter. Now, a few months ago, I'm a big fan of Mark and have been for a long time. A few months ago, I would not have nominated Mark so I did an event with Mark in San Diego in early October, and the next day we're on the phone talking about the event, and at some point I bring up Twitter, and I'm like, how can you spend time talking to these vile people. It would like spending 15 minutes on that would ruin the rest of my day. Then 6 days later, 6 days or 5 days later, the attack of October 7th happened, and as part of that, I became very active on Twitter. I don't know this for a fact, but I think if you look at October 7th until now, I've tweeted more than I tweeted since I got on Twitter with this account, at least in 2018. And yeah, I see the value of it. I think I was right in what I told Mark. It's not good for me, for my mental health, but I think it's important. And yeah, the fact that Mark has been at it for so long, the fact that Mark has been at it as a public figure, and not just a public figure, a Hollywood public figure, where you would think he would get canceled and you would think he would be concerned about getting canceled, but he isn't, or if he is, it's not enough to stop him. So yeah, my vote goes to Mark Pellegrino.
And let's hear now from the third consecutive season winner, Kirk. Who is your nomination?
Wow, there's so many great choices. I mean, I don't want to choose myself because that's bias, but because you have such good judgment, and because I'm a fan of you on Twitter, Nikos, I'm tempted to select you. Ruck is also good on Twitter, and I was going to say Razi. After October 7th, I know you probably don't like being more active on Twitter and dealing with all of these maniacs, but I have enjoyed watching you go at a lot of people. Same with like Mark. Like I see Mark always arguing with various people on Twitter. I'm like, I don't know how he has the patience for stuff like that. C. Bradley Thompson, I noticed was getting retweeted by Elon Musk a couple weeks ago. That guy seems to be blowing up. So I might have to go with C. Bradley Thompson for really bringing his A game this year and getting noticed by some very influential people.
And speaking of how you do Twitter, I will also nominate someone. He's not an objectivist. He's a libertarian, and actually he's an effective altruist. So he pisses me off philosophically, but he's so good on Twitter. I want people to check out a guy called Chris Freiman, F-R-E-I-M-A-N. So he's a libertarian. He's apparently a professor at John Chambers College of Business and Economics, and he's the best meme person in the libertarian universe. So he knows how to use memes. He creates very cool memes. And also another page that has attracted my attention this year on Twitter is something called, I think, Project Liberal or something like that. Yes, Project Liberal. Also some people who understand Twitter, who understand memes, and they make memes on topics where the traditional right would consider is like the soy boys topics, but they reverse it. They say, no, like the yes Chad is the classical liberal, the cosmopolitan, and actually the soy jacks are the traditionalists. So people who want to become better at Twitter, check out these two accounts, Chris Freiman and Project Liberal. And with this,
so
yes.
Let me just answer Daniel here rather than try to type while we're talking. Yes, if Nikos wants to have more than one, he can. Let's limit it to 4, but yeah, we can have more than 3 nominations, although I have 1 for each category. I also want to quickly mention some of the people mentioned in the chat. Christopher Smith says Matt. I'm guessing he's talking about Matt Bateman. That is a good. I think he was nominated in previous years as well.
Yeah,
right?
He was nominated. I think in 2021. Yeah, he's also good on Twitter.
And we have a mention for Raka. That is also
it's just that Raka tweets in a cryptic kind of way that you have to, in some topics, so he doesn't tweet that often, or he tweets in a way that you have to, sometimes it's difficult to, so it's for the few, it's not for the masses.
By the way, that was Undeath Metal. It took me a while to get that name. I wish I could nominate Raka for leading me to ARC UK. That is a great reason to nominate Raka. Yeah, Raka has, his fame as a parody rapper, and a lot of his Twitter style is based on that, and refers sometimes tweets out lyrics that if you I'm not sure, Nikos, you listen to Raka's rap as much as I do, so you might not be as
I don't get the joke. Let me defend me nominating more than 1 people. This episode is also for people to expand the kind of the pool of the people they follow, or of people who are worthy of a follow. That's why That's why I went a bit off script. Okay, next category. Next category is the daily objective of the year. So which was the one episode that really caught your that is a memorable TDO? So Razi, this year you did more than any other year. Which is the most memorable for you?
Well, the most memorable, my nomination is not for one that I was on.
Okay.
It is for the return of Rucka. Rucka left TDO in January. He returned for one episode in, I believe it was November, to talk about the situation. Now, Rucka not just left the Daily Objective, he had his own commentary channel. He stopped doing that. He retired from commentary, and he came back for that one episode. I think it was a great episode. It's titled "Am I a Zionist?" In case you missed that, you should go over and watch that. That is my nomination.
Which also reminds me that his last episode was also quite nice and quite it was quite emotional in a good way. Not like you're gonna cry, but it was nice. Okay, here I'm gonna be completely narcissistic. I had 2 or 3 top episodes. Either were all episodes I was involved in. The one I picked is where is it? Here. How is Ayn Rand still a thing? The 7 million, what's his name? Jamie Oliver. That guy.
John Oliver. Jamie Oliver.
John Oliver, and we debunked it. We debunked it with James. Now, why do I pick this episode? Because I think this episode can be evergreen. You can watch it in 2024, 2025. So it's the most popular thing related to Ayn Rand out there. It's this stupid episode, How is Ayn Rand still a thing? Which is not even that funny. So debunking it, I think we did some public service to the objectivist
movement. You say
movement.
it's the most popular thing related to Ayn Rand out there, you mean on YouTube? The most popular thing related to Ayn Rand out there is Atlas Shrugged.
I mean, in terms of
more people have read it than watched that stupid
no
video.
question about it. I mean, on YouTube, if you put Ayn Rand, I think the thing with the most views is this stupid thing. So I'm glad we debunked it. Not that 7 million views are going to see the debunking. And I would encourage people to anything that has to do in our channel with debunking is usually good work. It's work that there's been a lot of prep. So our debunking videos are good and are there evergreen for the future. Kirk, any daily objective that stood out, either that you watched or very possibly you were on it?
Well, one of them I'm thinking about nominating is the one where you were debunking. It's called Debunking Tucker Again. That was going to be my nomination. I hate to repeat what you've been saying, but other good episodes that stood out to me was your show on Steve Bannon with you. I think you and Ruck and Mark were on that one. Giving the Devil the Benefit of the Law. I think that was with James Valiant. That was a really good episode that stood out to me. And then I noticed another one. It was from May that I think Razi and James Valiant did. It was about Israel ceasefire. And I was thinking I might need to revisit that because obviously it predated the October 7th attacks by many months. And they may have been talking about stuff that was yet to come. So, but yeah, I would say the Debunking Tucker Again episode that you did, Nikos. That's my nomination.
Good. So there were 2. There was a Tucker Carlson liar, something like that, and then debunk. So this was the time where Tucker started his show on X. And I watched the first 2 episodes and I noticed, okay, this guy is basically lying all the time. So after the first 2 episodes, he continued lying, but the level dropped to the point where he brought that guy who said, I had sex with Obama, and he gave me drugs, something like that. So this is beyond debunking, so we didn't do any other debunking. But thanks. This was indeed a good episode. Razi.
So a dishonorable mention, and not just for the Daily Objective, but for the channel in general, is my newfound decision to read non-super chat comments, which I am going to do right now. So if they're very good, I sometimes struggle not to. Luckily, I struggle to read the chat while doing a show, so I'm sure I missed some. But yeah, Jason Adams on Nikos's mistake over which Oliver we're talking about says one of the Olivers is a chef who made sure we can't get fast food at Heathrow and must buy overpriced, fancy, unhealthy food. Well, first of all, yeah, just get yourself status with British Airways and you don't have to buy food at Heathrow. You can eat at the lounge. But yeah, Jamie Oliver is a really despicable person as well. He pushed the sugar tax and got it through. And yeah, I'll remind viewers in case you haven't heard me say it before. In the UK, a can of Coke or a bottle of Coke costs more than a same size Diet Coke because the Coke has sugar, and sugar is bad for you, and you don't know that sugar, and you're not good enough to decide whether or not sugar is bad for you. So the government, urged by Jamie Oliver, will make that decision for you. Thank you, Jeff Bannister, for the super chat. Thank you, Stephen Harper, for the super chat. Thank you, Jeff Bannister, for gifting 5 Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube memberships. So we have 5 people who are now members just because they were on the chat while Jeff gave those memberships. Thank you.
Okay. So we have to nominate the best reality show of the year. So there were 2 stood out for me. The one was who is the most successful person in history, because it's a topic which is so unusual that you probably won't find it anywhere else. But for me, this is the one I enjoy the most, which is the ARC UK Awards of the year. So Razi, the reality show is your baby, and you made many appearances in it. Which one do you nominate as the best of the year?
First of all, I love the fact that we have the reality show. It was difficult to put together. It's still difficult to put together. We often complain that we do everything on a shoestring budget, and that is not a made up complaint. But I'm glad we have it. I think it's gotten better since we launched in July. It will continue to get better. And my favorite, in this case, I was on that episode. We did this a few weeks ago, a month ago, and it's actually not the original idea for the reality show, because that's not what we've been doing these past few months. The idea was it's a panel. We have a few topics. We talk about them. Some are more serious, some are not as serious. The past 3 months, it's all been serious. It's all been the same topic, or different aspects of the same topic. But we spoke about modern day Holocaust denial. That's pretty grim for an award, but that was the episode where we talked about the video that Owen Jones, who we've brought up often on this channel in recent months, did a video where he said, I went to see the IDF video of the horrors of October 7th that they've been showing journalists. And then he says at the beginning, yeah, there were atrocities, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes through everything that Israel said happened, and says how there's no proof in the video. There's no proof of rape. There's no proof of beheading. There were burnt bodies, but there's no proof that it's Hamas and not Israel. Really despicable video from a despicable man who we've been talking about a lot. And then we were talking about Ash Sarkar and Novara Media and their ongoing denial of what is going on there. And of course, the denial is coupled with a belief in everything that comes out of anybody who accuses Israel of anything. So including, of course, the Al Ali hospital alleged bombing, which wasn't a bombing. It was a Palestinian rocket. The accusation that Israel killed 500 people. It wasn't Israel. It wasn't 500 people. So that episode, I think we did the job of calling these people out on what they are doing, which is denying things that they are seeing with their own eyes because it is done to Jews. So yeah, that's my nomination.
Kirk, what's your nomination?
Well, I was thinking about picking that one too, although I think I was on that one, so I was even hesitant to pick that one, but I will second that nomination. I also like the one where we talked about the Osama bin Laden letter and how all the knuckleheads over on TikTok were praising it. But because Razi already gave some good answers, I'm just going to go with one of the more recent ones that got 14,000, or was it this? No, it's the Daily Object, or the reality show, excuse me. The one that got 14,000, about how the Palestinian people are the enemy, because that one was so big recently. I'm just going to nominate that one.
Okay, I can't comment on either of the two because I haven't watched them. Okay. Next category, best video title of the year. Here I'm going to be again self-referential. It's the episode from 5 months ago on the 6-Day War. This was before October 7th. And the title is The 6-Day War When the 300 Actually Won. The 6-Day War When the 300 Actually Won, obviously with reference to the film 300. And let's do that. Let's do these two stories together, video and thumbnail. I will also choose the thumbnail of that episode. Let me say a huge kudos to the guy who is doing our thumbnails, and I think he also contributes sometimes to the titles. So he has on the one side Israel, on the other side the Spartan, and on the other side the three countries that were on the other side of the 6-Day War: Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. So great title, great thumbnail. Kudos to our producer. I don't know if he's openly our producer, so Razi can name and what's the opposite of name and same, whatever
Daniel
that is.
is, of course, everybody watching knows who Daniel is. He's also on shows, by the way. So
okay, good. Yeah, so that's Daniel. That's Daniel.
But Nikos, you're combining your nomination for the two categories. You're not combining the categories. Some of us have different titles and thumbnails.
Yeah, of course. But because these two categories for me are the same, I'm combining. Okay, Razi, best title, and
Best
if you want,
title.
best thumbnail.
So titles, I am usually the one who comes up with the titles, but my nomination for best title is a title that I didn't come up with. This was on one of my recent fundraising trips where I wasn't involved in much of what goes on behind the scenes, and I just saw it, and I actually don't know who did come up with the title, which makes it easier because that way I'm not picking favorites in terms of the people making the decision. But the title is Ben and Jerry's Now Serving Hamas. This was a reality show, I believe, about a month ago or so. So, yeah, great title. Very, very, very appropriate because that is what they
I'm
do.
such a boomer that I didn't get the title and I'm still thinking it and not getting it.
What aren't you getting?
Anyway, maybe I get half of it. Anyway,
they're an ice cream company and they're serving Hamas, as in they're working for Hamas, but also they serve ice cream.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I half got it. Here.
I was gonna go with genocidal hummus, which was a recent episode, but then again, I was on that episode and I don't want to feel biased. So I'm gonna go way back early this year. Episode 666, January 6th, which I think you, Nikos, were a part of that show. So I'm going to nominate that one. Episode 666, January 6th.
By the way, I believe that was Rucka's title, if I'm not mistaken. Daniel, do you remember? Is that I'm right about that, right? Anyway, Daniel will let us know.
And what the thumbnail will you pick? Again, we have funny thumbnails. I saw... so for any funny thumbnail, maybe
I got a thumbnail. So, yeah. Sorry.
No,
I thought you were asking me. I think you were just going. Oh no. Well, there were a few that stood out. I like the Phil Robertson one where he's in the coffin behind the fire. I thought that was clever. One of the Tucker Carlson ones, I think, was the one where Fox News fired him, and then there's like someone giving Tucker the boot.
That was Raz's idea.
But I got to go with this one because it combines two of my favorite things. It was the show was called Confession of a Former Terrorism Apologist, and it had the New York City skyline, one of my favorite cities in the world. And behind that was one of my favorite objectivist intellectuals in his manly face, you, Nico. So I'm going to go with that one, that thumbnail.
Oh, yeah, the Confession of the Terror. Yeah. Where it looks like I'm about to blow up the Twin Towers. Yeah, I was checking it today when I was going through past episodes. Razi, favorite thumbnail?
I forgot about the Hellfire one. That was also I think that was my idea. Although, of course, the fact that something is my idea, I don't know how to do it, and I tell Daniel, and then he makes magic out of it. So, yeah, if we are putting four per category, Daniel, add the Hellfire one, and also my nomination. I mean, this is again a bit grim, but. What was the title of that episode? So the title was Jews for Palestine, and the thumbnail was a capo, which was a Jewish officer of the concentration camps. They were nominated by by the Nazis, and they basically, your choice was, you get special privileges by, it was a way of turning Jews against each other. And it was the title was Jews for Palestine. The capo had a like a Hamas logo, so on his sleeve. Daniel, I don't remember the title of it. Kirk, do you remember the title of the Hellfire one?
Okay, till you people remember it, let's move to the categories because
So
we're
yeah,
running.
my
Why
nomination.
did God lift? So it was the one with Phil Robertson we're talking about, or Pat Robertson. I think I said Phil Robertson. Pat Robertson, that one.
Pat Robertson. So
yeah, it's titled "Why Did God Lift His Divine Protection from Pat Robertson?" Episode 770.
Megan asks if you can have write-in for these polls. I was thinking at some point maybe we should do like, a $100 super chat or something gets you your nominee in the poll, but we didn't do that from the start. And yeah, we that's my 2024 resolution is figuring out fundraising. So maybe
but look, it's an episode which is a celebratory episode, so I think you should read the good comments and also contribute.
I'll read good comments, but yeah, there are no write-ins. You can you put it in the comments, and if it's good, it will be read out. And if it's good, it might not be read out because I might miss it. So, and if it's bad, it won't be read out.
So there's a category which I don't understand. It says best video of the year, best. Oh, okay, no, sorry, it's best video title of the year. Okay, no, forget it. And the last category is TDO guest of the year. Now, the question is, who is a guest? Is it someone who is not a regular, or is it someone with a one-off appearance? If it's someone with a one-off appearance, I have no opinion. If it's a new entry, I think Kirk is the best new entry because I think Kirk never appeared before 2023. If it's one of the people who are not there that often, but I did more stuff in 2023 than the past, it would have to be James and the debunking episode. We did 3 or 4 debunking episodes. But Razi, you know the guests better. So who is the one-off guest, let's say, of the year?
So part of us being overwhelmed by the putting together an additional show, which is a panel show, which means we have to put together, topics and guests, meant that there were fewer actual guests this year. My favorite was the interview I did with Douglas Carswell, former member of parliament, about a month ago, a member of parliament in the UK. He generally, I think, is fantastic on Israel. He's better than any current member of parliament that I've seen. And he constantly, we've argued in the past, should you call the Palestinians savages? He's clear on it. He calls them savages all the time. He calls their supporters savages. He was also clear on what he thinks about the current British political scene in both parties, including the ruling party, which he used to represent in parliament. So that is my favorite guest of the year.
Kirk.
I'm gonna go because I do want to give her credit for a bunch of other stuff, but Agustina Vergara Cid, I think she was a guest on Harry Binswinger's show when talking about immigration, and I think she's been killing it on this topic all year. I really enjoyed her talk at OCON. I know I'm sort of like lumping this in with all that, and I've also appreciated her commentary on Milei and what's going on in Argentina as of late. I think she's also an underrated Twitter account, although she's not always active, but I do enjoy watching her dunk on goons, loons, and buffoons like Clueless, Candace Owens, and Robert Reich. I always enjoy that. So I'm going to give it to Augustina because, again, she's been killing the immigration topic this year. And I remember she was a guest on Harry Binswinger's show.
Right. Yeah. It was the Ocon talk that if we also nominated top best objectivist talk of the year, would get the vote. And it was my prediction that this would be the talk that would become viral. But then October 7 happened, and another talk happened to become viral. Anyway, is there any other? Yes.
Yeah, let me just say to people who are watching, you can, if you missed the category, you can find them all in the description of the video, the links to all the categories where you can vote. Megan asks if you accept a crisp high five as legal tender. Yes, I do, but the categories are closed, so I'll consider it a super chat, and thank you for that super chat, Megan. Yeah, Nikos, I think we need some time to count the votes, right? I think they're counted by hand. So if we have anything else to add before hopefully you read the results or Kirk.
The results for what?
When we get to the results of the who won the different awards.
Okay, yeah. So there is no other category. So maybe we should have thought of more categories. So
wasn't Objectivist of the Year one of the categories?
Yeah, but we thought this would be okay. That's okay. Let's do this. So my vote for this would be Objectives of the Year should go to Elan, particularly because you might have seen he's promoting his book. You might have seen the episode with the 2 million views. What you don't see is how hard he works for all that stuff, because Elan is not a commentator, just a commentator, right? He's not a guy who we go to him, hey, do some commentary, and he does the commentary. He's someone who is very integral to how ARI works, how more junior faculty like myself or like Agustina managed to develop intellectually. So this is, in a way, this is his main job, but also he does the commentary. But seeing his commentary on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you'd think this is a full-time job, but it's not. And this, I think, is makes it even more impressive that he's doing such a good commentary, and also that he's such a good colleague, and he has been so helpful for my growth and for ARI's growth. So Objectives of the Year, for me, the reward goes to Elan Journal.
Yeah, I have to say this is an unofficial category. There won't be any voting because Daniel will have to put that together, and he's now counting the votes for previous categories. I want to thank Jason Adams for the super chat, Buster Jones for the super chat as well. Oh, Daniel says he can do it, so it can be an official category. Thank you, Megan, for the additional super chat in addition to the high five. She says, best dance moves, Prigozhin, from coup to crash. Nikos, I thought you would appreciate that, but anyway.
I was checking it out, actually. I was checking it out. I thought about it, and it had this thumbnail with Prigozhin staring at an airplane. I considered it.
And yeah, Jeff Bannister says the guests Jim Brown had on about Milei. Yeah, that was the other only show that we've done so far that wasn't about the war since the war started, this was a couple of weeks ago. Jim Brown did an episode of Finance Friday. He had on Maria Marti and Eduardo Marti, and yeah, that was a very good episode about a topic that normally we would have probably talked about a few times in recent months, and I'm sure we'll talk about Milei during his presidency often. Yeah, and thank you to everybody who's saying Razi. I, again, can't nominate myself, but yeah, I do have to nominate somebody for Objectivist of the Year. So, all right, Daniel, yeah, if you can jump in if there's anything that needs to be said to the audience, because as you know, I can't read and talk very well at the same time. But I was thinking about this category a lot, and I was thinking, I don't want to be, there's like giving the obvious answer, but then again, we sometimes if the obvious answer, it's obvious for a reason. So for every reason that it would have been obvious in previous years, but even more so during the war for his commentary, and for the fact that, again, nobody brings in more new people to objectivism, I nominate Yaron Brook.
Right. But how are there people who, when you ask them, who is the best basketball player ever, Michael Jordan or LeBron? They're the cool kids who say, no, actually it's Jabbar, or actually it's someone who says Will Chamberlain. So, yeah, Yaron is always every year, it's like the golden ball going to Messi, right? So is he always the best out there? Yes, he is always the best out there. But Messi getting the golden ball every year is like, okay, but this year, like Haaland did so many things. So I would probably vote for Haaland rather than Messi. Of course,
If
Messi.
we go with the sports analogy, I grew up in Israel. I watched basketball. Maccabi Tel Aviv had a 23-year run where we won the championship every year and then lost it once and then had another 15-year run. So actually, other teams thought about how they change the structure of the league, and they did. They did change it to make it more difficult for Maccabi to win the championship. So
it was that crap where you had one single final, so hoping that
where they
maybe
made the league basically another cup because there was one game and you can lose it in one game, even though you won throughout the season. No.
Okay.
Whoever is the best deserves the award.
Okay. But for the record, this year I think I consumed more Yaron than I've consumed at any other time, except maybe the first couple of years when I discovered the objective. So yeah, he was great this year.
We don't have Kirk's nomination yet, right? Kirk.
No, we haven't heard from Kirk.
Well, I was checking out the Ayn Rand Institute YouTube channel last night, and Nikos, you brought up the video with Elon Journo, which is great, but you're leaving out the fact that another objectivist was in that video, and it was you. And 2 of the top 4 videos right now on their channel involve you. And I thought your speech at Ocon, it went viral, really blew up. And so my selection for Objectives of the Year is Nikos Tirakopoulos.
Thank you very much. And turns out my surname can be pronounced rightly. You just have to read every syllable as you did. It's not as
We
difficult.
have an hour for this show. I don't have time to read your last name.
Okay.
By the way, a few other so the vote is now open, and the vote for this category, because it was last, will you don't have a lot of time, so vote quickly.
Okay. So because we have a few minutes only, let's start giving the results of the previous categories.
Wait, before you give the results, I want to mention a few or read out a few of the regular chats, and of course, thank you to everybody who mentions me, but I'm not going to read that out. But yeah.
Hey, see, this is like the communist stuff, right? So Razi always tells me, "Oh, you're still a communist." Notice how when he has to nominate himself, suddenly he becomes this. Oh no, the cause is bigger than I'm not nominating myself.
Last year, I didn't know who was going to be nominated for what, and I won some category by a big margin. I don't remember what the category was, but I thought it didn't make sense. So yeah, I think it makes sense for me not to nominate myself. Daniel, I hope you're sending these to Nikos as well, because he'll read them out. So Megan says Nikos is crushing it on ARI YouTube channel. Jeff says new objectivist of the year, Michael Leibowitz. Yeah, that is without a doubt. I think he's definitely the winner of that award. And best comedic timing, Kirk Wilcox. That was not best timing on my part, taking some time to read that. That's also Megan. Yeah, there are many, just like there are many good nominees in all categories. There are many good comments in the chat that we're not going to get to. And there is one of my favorite things that we have on this channel, not frequently enough, but there is a super chat from somebody who is on this show right now. Yeah, that is a thing here on ARC UK's YouTube channel. Kirk Wilcox says, save money in the UK, drink sugar-free soda. No, thank you. Thanks to your super chats, I can drink real Coke and not Diet Coke.
Okay, the moment we've been waiting, the results. So Public Intellectual of the Year, with 68% of the votes, easy victory for Douglas Murray, although Stephen Conkin also gets a very respectable 31%. No one thought that Sam Harris is a Public Intellectual of the Year. Sure, but again, honorable mention. So Douglas Murray wins Intellectual of the Year. Yes.
Before you go to the next category, Morgan, because he's sent this to me on multiple platforms and in the chat as well, I will read it out. He says, Greta's Jihad has to get a mention. Yeah, last week, was it the reality show? I don't remember which show it was. I think it was the reality show. An episode was titled Greta's Jihad. That's a great title. After we had some videos that did very well, that was a video that many people went back to and watched. Also, the thumbnail was just just great. As I said, I think maybe people clicked on it just because how great Greta looks in a hijab. And if you haven't seen that yet, please go ahead and watch that. Nikos, next category.
Golden Raspberry of the Year when it comes to intellectuals. So 60% of the people were as disappointed as I were with Jordan Peterson's take on Ayn Rand. 33% were disappointed with Piers Morgan, and one lonely, probably Liverpool comrade was disappointed with Jordan Henderson, who left us for Saudi Arabia. Then
wait, Nikos, we need to add for dramatic. Have you ever seen an award show?
Yeah, well, come on, the dramatic
effect. We need a little bit of a pause, or at least to read some of the better.
Okay, I'll tell you this for the next category. On Best Objectivist on Twitter, it was decided on one vote. Okay.
Oh, so that is so. Actually, now we need to go to commercial break. But
no, actually, I tell you what. The first from the second and the third is one vote difference. So Mark Pellegrino wins. Kirk loses for one vote, but my vote counts for 3, so you win. C. Bradley Thompson is third. No one was too moved by my second nomination of Chris Freeman, but again, check him out.
So
next category.
Kirk, wait. So Kirk, this is the first time in this category that you actually haven't won it, which is like you're.
Wait, are we a democracy? He has won it. I gave him the award.
No, you nominate. You can't vote. The people vote. You nominate.
I didn't know it worked like that. Okay.
Megan asks.
That's why I'm for an electoral college. I need weighted voting in my favor.
Okay.
Megan asks in the chat, Razi, how much to get you guys to dance on camera simultaneously? 100 grand and we'll do it. Or I think I said if Israel does what needs to be done, we will also dance on camera live.
Yeah, I'm not much of a dancer. Next category. Daily Objective of the Year. So the 3 nomination is how is Ayn Rand still a thing? Debunked with Trump energy capital letters. Raqa's Return and Debunking Tucker. Again, these are the 3 nominations with only 1 vote difference. Okay, it's not that there were like 1,000 votes in total, but with 1 vote difference, the 7 million views, how is Ayn Rand still a thing? Debunked wins the Daily Objective of the Year, and Rakas gets the honorable second place. Next category. The reality show of the year. The Palestinian people are the enemy wins, and second place, modern day Holocaust denial. My suggestion gets 0. Next. Best thumbnail of the year. Come on, people. Seriously, you didn't vote for me here? Come on. So Jews for Palestine wins, and the 6-day war, when the 300 actually won, only gets second place. Confessions of a former terrorist apologist is third, so I don't even win when I'm on the thumbnail. And Why Did God Lift His Divine Protection gets the last place.
I'm really surprised. That is, first of all, that's a great title. And the thumbnail, yeah, I forgot about that thumbnail. Otherwise, I would have nominated that. But yeah, I even though my nominee won, I disagree with the vote.
And I can't believe that I didn't even win the best video title of the year. The Ben and Jerry thing won. Okay, I get it. It's good. But it's not as good as when the 300 actually won. Come on, people. And episode 666, January 6, gets on the third. Actually, I'm not even clear second because it's the same percent. It's 22.22% with the episode 666. So not doing very well there. Okay. The Daily Objective guest of the year. Kirk, you didn't win here. Agustina didn't win here. Douglas Carswell actually won comfortably with, actually not so comfortably, with 44.444%.
Let me just say, that's impressive. For some reason, that episode did very badly viewership-wise. So anybody here who hasn't watched it, it won an award. So now you have to go back and watch it. only a month old. It is still relevant entirely, I think so.
Right. And objectives of the year, there's a tie in the first place, but Elan is mentioned first and I mentioned second. So I'm not the objectives of the year. Elan is the objectives of the year. And Yaron, who is like the objectivist of the decade anyway, he's in the third position, but he doesn't care because, as he told me in ARC UK's event last year, I'm the alpha dog. I already know it because I was saying, yeah, you know how Israelis in what's the name of this TV series in Fauda? It's like they all like, no, I'm the best in the team, and I was making some kind of joke about how sometimes this might be the case with Israelis who were on the table, but Yaron was like, nah, there's never a question.
It was
I'm
like
number
when
one.
Hakeem Olajuwon ate David Robinson's lunch in the Western Conference Finals after David Robinson was presented with the MVP trophy.
That was 1995 when the Houston Rockets won the title despite having home disadvantage throughout the playoffs. So yeah, Yaron won't lose much sleep with this third place. Okay, Razi and Kirk, final words.
Was that all the categories?
Well, I'd like to nominate myself for worst internet connection. And no matter what I do, I seem to be lagging whenever I come on the show. So I'd like to apologize.
There was a moment on today's episode where you made a face and it froze on that. And I think that's that's kind of a throwback to that famous Rucka and Mark moment that I'm sure you remember on this show.
That was the funniest moment in the history, I think, of ARC. Is this the James Valiant laugh?
No, there was an episode with Rucka and Mark where Rucka got stuck in some sort of a loop and Mark couldn't stop laughing because it was a very funny loop. It was like a very specific moment where that happened.
Yeah, that was the nervous laughter moment. So there were two very funny moments in ARC UK's history. The one is the Mark moment, the laugh, and the other is James Valiant, also very characteristic laugh, but I don't remember exactly when, but someone made it like a loop and it was quite happy. Anyway, let me say
there is a super chat. There is a super chat from Stephen Harper for $20. Thank you, Stephen. He says, my favorite YouTube videos. Thank you for making me read last names. For $20, I will read as many last names as you want. My favorite YouTube video for 2023 were from Alma Deutscher, her Grinzinger polka, which celebrated the end of COVID, and her in memoriam memorializing the victims of October 7th from her piano concerto. Yeah, we are fans of Alma Deutscher on this channel. We've tried and will try again to get her on as well. So thank you for that.
Actually, there should be also a category the videos we liked most but anyway, next year. Okay, that's it from us. Let me say a big thank you again to this community, to Razi for keeping the lights open. He's working very hard to keep the lights open. Again, there are things that people see and things that people don't see. You'd be surprised the things Razi does when the lights are off to keep the lights on. Kirk, always a pleasure. You make my Twitter experience better, and I'll leave the last words to you guys.
Yeah, let me just quickly tell people what's coming up. So tomorrow, there was a lot coming up, and a lot of it is scheduled already. But a couple of highlights is tomorrow. Kirk, you mentioned the episode that is now at over 14,000 views. The episode that was titled "The Palestinian People Are the Enemy." I think one of the things that made that episode so great is that we were disagreeing. It became a sort of a debate, and it became a debate between me and John Watts and me and Robert Naser, who wasn't on the episode. He was in the chat. So John, Robert, and Morgan will join me tomorrow for the reality show that is titled "Are There Innocent Civilians in Gaza?" Hopefully all 14,000 people will watch it and then some. And then on Friday, for the Daily Objective, I am joined by Yaron Brook, and that episode is titled "How Israel Can Defeat the Palestinians." So make sure you tune in for that and for the rest of what we have coming up. And Kirk, I will leave the last word to you.
Happy New Year, I guess, if I'm not on any other shows this week. And thanks for watching. You know who the real MVP of the objectivist movement is? The super chat viewers here on the Ayn Rand Center UK.
Thanks, everyone.